What is going on, Hoops fans? Back at it with another New York Knicks video. And before I get started on the video, just want to shout out Ventura Variety. Great subscriber of mine. He pointed the story out to me on Twitter. And this is definitely a great story to cover. Just got home from work and figured I would go over it. Kevin Durant today came out and bashed the Knicks. And we'll get into the quote in a bit. And I agree with some of it. And I disagree with some of it. And I'll tell you my thoughts on it. But as far as Kevin Durant goes, before I get into the bulk of the video, let me say I respect him as a player. I respect him as a person, right? He's a great basketball player. He's one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the sport. I mean, the guy thinks he's a scoring champion. He's phenomenal, right? He's one of only, 8 players ever to do the 50, 40, 90, 50% from the field, 40% from the three, 90% from the charity stripe. One of the best all-around scorers in the history of the sport, right? Everybody said that about Carmelo. Kevin Durant's even better. And yeah, he should have went number 1 overall in his draft, obviously over Greg Oden, and he's probably the second best player on the planet when he's healthy, behind LeBron James. And he's been the second best player for quite some time. He's a freak, 6'11", could shoot it from 3, could handle. We don't know if he's going to be that way when he gets back from injury, but to this point in his career, he's been near perfect player. He's a great player, but I have my issues with him. I'll get into my issues with him as a basketball player after we go over the quote that he said today about the New York Knicks when pertaining to free agents that do not want to come here and his reasoning why. So here is the quote. I believe it was on Hot 97 today, the radio station in New York. I think it was. Maybe Power 105. I'm not sure. But here's the quote. Fans expect players to join the Knicks because of their brand. But players have grown up watching the Knicks suck. And they aren't cool anymore. Kevin Durant on why superstars aren't signing with the Knicks. All right, let me speak to the first part of that quote. I agree with the first part. Fans who think that free agents are going to come here just because of the Mecca and because of the allure of New York City, for the most part, you're right. That is not the case. Fans are completely off base with that. Amari Stoudemire, for instance, really the last big ticket free agent we brought in, obviously Carmelo Anthony was a trade, he didn't come here because of New York. He may have said that. The reason he came here is because the Knicks were the only team willing to offer him a max deal when he had 2 bum knees. Okay? So, yes, Knicks fans who think they're just going to come here because of the bright lights, you're way off base. It's not the way it used to be. Back in the 70s, back in the 80s, might have been the case. You might have needed New York to build your brand. It's not that way anymore. With the way TV coverage is all over the place, right? I mean, you could be in Utah and build a brand. You could be anywhere. You know, there's so many games on ESPN, TNT, TBS. Back in the day, obviously New York City, major market. It's not that way anymore. I mean, maybe it helps a little bit, but I agree that is not going to bring players in, especially when you factor in the taxes of New York compared to a place like Dallas or Florida. I get it, right? So he's right on that. Where Kevin Durant is completely off base, and I'm not saying the Knicks haven't sucked. They've sucked. But where he's completely off base is to insinuate that free agents are not coming here because the Knicks have sucked. In terms of their history. Like they grew up and watched the Knicks suck, so they don't want to be Knicks. No, that's not the case at all. That has nothing to do with it. The reason that the Knicks haven't been able to bring in free agents is because they haven't built the team the right way. You look at all these teams that bring in free agents. What do? They build through the draft. They build a youth movement. Okay? So that's what the Knicks are starting to do, right? With R.J. Barrett, Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robinson. They've got young emerging players. If these players pan out, you're going to be able to bring in a free agent. No doubt about it. Because he's going to see the cap space. He's going to say, I can bring a friend along with me, and we can compete for a championship. It has nothing to do with the fact that players grew up and they watched the Knicks suck, so they don't want to be Knicks. That makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. He sounds complete. What's your explanation for the Clippers? The Clippers have sucked my whole life. Why? Because they had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin? They had a couple of pretty good regular seasons? No. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with building the right way. And the Clippers are a perfect example. They, of course, drafted Blake Griffin. That brought Chris Paul along for the ride. But in terms of Kevin Durant, you know what's not cool, Kevin Durant? I'll tell you what's not cool. You know what's not cool? When you got a team up, when you're up in a series in the Western Conference Finals, 3-1 against the best team on the planet, and you blow the lead, and then the next year you join that team, a 70-plus win team, that's not cool. Okay? That's not good for your image. And the fact of the matter is, we don't know if you wouldn't have joined the Knicks anyway. The Knicks, from all reports, did not offer you a contract because of your injury. And you know what? At the end of the day, I don't blame them. You can't play this whole season. We don't know where we're going to stand the year after that. It was a huge gamble the Nets took, and we don't know if it's going to pay off. But Kevin Durant, stop running your mouth about the New York Knicks. You just got here. You want to know what's not cool? Playing for the Brooklyn Nets. I lived in Brooklyn for a couple of years. You know, I can count on one hand, maybe two, how many people I saw in Brooklyn wearing Nets hats. The people in your own city are Knicks fans. So KD, shut your mouth and play basketball. And keep the Knicks out of it. As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.